Hey there, welcome back to another Excel guide tutorial, and today I'm going to cover Excel dynamic drop-down lists. So what I mean by this is a searchable drop-down where when you start putting an input into the cell, say A, there will be a drop-down arrow that will basically list anything that contains the character A. So it's nice to have that searchable functionality, especially when you have a very large sort of drop-down list or pick list, however you want to call it. So I'm going to do three different versions. I'm doing one with the function filter, which is Office 365 at the moment. So if you've got the latest Excel with 365, you can use the filter function to do this, which is going to be the easiest method. But I know a lot of people out there don't have access to this. So then option 2 is the aggregate function, which was introduced in Excel 2010. So if you have 2010, 2013, 2016, 2019, you can use aggregate. Otherwise, if you have a version prior to 2010, you can use this third option, which is the small function. You combine it with an if function as well, and Control-Shift-Enter the formula. So let's get to it. How are we going to start? Well, I've made this table first of all. So this is my grocery TBL, grocery table, right? So I've just got a list of groceries, their price, and the stock. So we're not actually going to use these columns, but I just made it into a little bit of a nicer table for you guys. Let's minimize that. Okay, so let's think here. Well, the blue cells I'm actually going to come back to later. I'm going to actually use them in my formulas over here though. So let's come to filter first. So we're going to use equals filter. Now the array we want is going to be the groceries. And we're going to include basically where this character here that we put in here is found within this. So we need to include something that's true, right? So if we just did a search function, finding this text here, whatever it may be, within this text here. Now, the only problem is with this is search returns a number essentially, and if it doesn't return a number because it's not found the character, it's going to return an error, and we don't want errors. So I'm going to convert this to an is number. So this is saying that this here is true or false. It's true when it picks up the character found in this here is found in this. And if it's empty, we can say grocery unavailable. And yeah. So let's close that. Now you can see we've got the full list here. So if I come here and if I type in O, for example, now this is filtered, so all of these contain O's. So you can see there's no, and I can carry on. So it pairs. If I went for something that didn't exist, you see we get grocery unavailable as our option because it's returning this parameter if empty. Okay, so that's actually done it for the first one. So I'm actually going to come here, let's just highlight, I'm not going to expand on the table, so I'm going to highlight this range, conditional formatting here, let's do a new rule, and let's basically just say where the length, and then start here, start on the first cell, make it relative, because remember you're basically copying it across to the other cells. If we're saying that is greater than 0, let's give it a light green fill, and let's give it an outline border. Cool. So now if I filter this to an A, you see it nicely formats those that contain A, that contains C, B, sorry, that contains C, and so on. No grocery with a D in it, apparently. So yeah, that's nice to have. So what we're going to do now here is I'm actually going to use the data validation on this cell itself. If I come to Data tab, Data ribbon tab, Data validation, let's allow a list here, and now we're going to put equals I4 hashtag, because remember the spill range gets referenced by a hashtag. So let's do that. Okay, what happens now? So now we've got this drop down. Let's try change. You see it says the value doesn't match because obviously A isn't one of the values. It's contained in the values, but it's not one of the values. So we have to do one more step here. We have to come back to data validation, go to the error alert tab, and we untick show error alert after invalid data is entered. Okay, so what's this do? Let's type in an A and find out. So if I type in the A and click the drop down, this refreshes to only pick up the ones that contain an A, and it reflects in this pick list here. So let's go for a more obvious example. Let's try B. So as you can see, strawberries, broccoli, and biscuits, which is right because that's part of our filters. So we've successfully set up this dynamic drop-down using filter. Okay, let's move on to aggregate now. So this is using the aggregate function with an index as well. So we'll start off by saying equals aggregate. Now we want to pick up small because that helps us with our array. Our option is going to be 6 because we ignore any errors because we're going to generate errors on purpose. The array in this turn is going to be, we're going to search, find the text here in this drop down, in this dynamic range that we put in, and we want to lock this in because we need to drag this formula down because it's not going to generate us a spill range, unfortunately. Aggregate doesn't really work like that. And then we're going to find that within the text, the groceries, table groceries. Let's close that bracket. Close that again because obviously that's a double, but then that will give us basically either an error or a number. But we want the number to be 1 essentially, and the error can stay as an error, that's fine. So we're just going to divide by the array again. Just going to type this manually, grocery tables groceries. Close that, close that. So that's basically now going to give us 1 or an error, which is perfect, that's what we want. Now we need to times it by the row of the groceries minus row of the header of this table. And then our array number is going to be rows, let's do the start of the table, $8.04 to A4. So we're making an expanding reference. So what I mean by that is you give the upper bound, or the first bound of the reference is absolute and the second one is relative. So when you drag it down, you get A2 to A2, let's say it starts at that, and then it goes A2 to A3, A2 to A4, etc. So if we close that, close that. So you see we get a number 1 here. Now what we're going to do is drag this all the way down to 22, because that's just the bottom of this table. And we're not going to expand on this table for the time being. So what I want to do now is I want to put something here so we show errors on purpose. But first of all, I want to index this. So let's index, and this is our row number basically. So we want to index the grocery array, giving it this aggregate as a row number. Now if we close this, you see these are basically the row numbers of the items in this array. So we're just feeding this through, and we're going to purposely get the errors again. But now I'm going to come back to the initial cell. I'm going to say if it's an error, then we just return a blank. Right? That's fine. Let's drag this all the way down. There we go. It's done it. Now if I wanted to expand on this table here, what I'd probably have to do with aggregate, which is the downside of it, is I'd have to drag the formula down manually a little bit. So it's not amazing, but that's one of the downsides to it. Whereas with filter would recalculate and come down with the table here. So filter is definitely the best option if you have the availability to use it. Otherwise aggregate works just fine. So we've now filtered the list. Now we just need to make the drop down. Now we're going to do this slightly differently because we can't use the hashtag to reference a spill range. We want to untick this first of all. We want to come back to list here, and now we're going to use an offset function. Because offset, you can put in a height parameter with a starting reference point. So the starting reference point is going to be J4. That's locked in J4. That's the start of this aggregate list. And then the next parameter is the amount of rows we want to translate. Well, we don't want any. We're in the right. We want to start with this row. Amount of columns to translate is 0 again. And now this fourth parameter of offset is the height, which we're going to use a sum product here. I'm not going to use count A or anything like that because it picks up formulas, which is annoying because we've got hidden formulas, it will pick it up. So I want sum product, and I want the first bracket, and then I want the unary operator to translate true or falses into ones and zeros. Then I want another bracket to start on the cell. Now I want to reference the whole range that my formulas are in, so these cells. I want to say they're not equal to blank. And then I close the sum product, or I'll close the array of the sum product, close the sum product, and then close again for the offset, so 3 brackets. So now if I click the drop down here, you see it changes. Let's go for B, let's click this, and you see it auto updates. So now I've covered aggregate. So now if I got rid of this, it should give me the full list in aggregate. Similarly with filter. So A changes, let's see, B, it changes, cool. So now we've set up something that will work for Excel 2010, 13, 16, and 19. So let's say let's say you're using Excel 2007, right? You're not going to have access to these two. So you're going to have to use small, which is the final option. So I'm going to come here to small. I'm going to use equals small, and then we want an if function. Now again, we need something to return true, so we're going to have to nest an is number here. So we're going to do is number to do a search, and we're going to find the text that we put into G4, and we're going to lock it in because we're dragging the formula down. We're going to find it within the groceries tab, the grocery field. And then we're going to close that. That's going to give us true or false. Double close because you're nesting a function. If that's true, you need to return, let me think, row of the groceries minus row of the header of the groceries. And value false is, let's just give it a blank. So if we do this, oh no, and then I need to do a K. K is going to be using an expanding reference again. So we're going to say rows, and we're going to go A$4 because that's the start of the table. I don't know why, I just like to use that, to A4. Now we close that twice, and you see we're going to get indexes. So I drag it down to 22, we get 1 to 19. So now if I put in an A, you see it changes. That's exactly what we want. So again, we're going to index again. We're going to index this array. This is our row number that we fed into this small if statement. We're going to close that, and now it's going to return the physical items. And now again, like before, we're going to put that if error statement in to capture where there's errors and set them to blank. And then we will drag this down to the bottom cell. So now it's nicely hidden. So if I put a B in, if I put a C in, if I empty the cell, it's full again. So exactly the same now with our data validation. We're going to go for a list. Our source is going to be equal to offset. This time it's K4, not J4, obviously. 0 rows, 0 columns, and a sum product on the height using this unary operator because you want to convert the trues and falses. And then we want to do basically this array here, not equal to blank. Close the array, close the sum product, and close the offset. Here we go. Oh, one last thing, I forgot to set the error alert to turn it off. Okay, let's type the A in. Okay, it's filtered the A, brilliant. Filtered the B, oops, filtered the C, so that's worked. Exactly what we wanted, and notice if we put D in and click the drop down, nothing's going to happen because there's no items that have a D within them. So let's take those out. So that is how to use some dynamic drop downs in different versions of Excel. So this is Office 365. This is Excel 2010, 2013, 2016, and 2019. And this is Excel 2007 or earlier. So this is the option to use for an older version of Excel, i.e. 2007 or before. This is that intermediate one, and this is for the newest one. Filter is the best one, because let me just update the table with another row. Let's say sardines. And let's say they cost, I don't know, £1.65, and there's 25 of them. So you can see that this has actually picked up in the filter part. The conditional formatting hasn't, because I only referenced these cells here, but for safety I could just reference a lot more rows, but I'm not going to. So yeah, filter's the only one, as you can see, that picks up sardines. I mean, I could preempt it, but I'm not going to. It's picked up here, so you can kind of see it's messed it up. So yeah, it's definitely safer to use filter if you got it, because otherwise you will have to rework this a little bit. But yes, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.